9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Freethought in Florida. Freethought in Florida is a production of the Atheist community of Polk County. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. I'm Sarah Ray, one of the directors of the ACPC, and this is Friday, February 5th, 2021. And my co-host tonight is Allie Ashmead. Allie, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
So excited to have you join us.
I'm excited to be here.
So great. Before we get into tonight's topics of conversation, we do want to remind everyone that you can support this show by going to patreon.com/polkatheists. That's another good way to support the ongoing production of this show and the work that the atheist community of Polk County is doing out in the community. If you can't do that, that's fine. You can also make a big difference by sharing out the episodes, liking and subscribing. Give us reviews wherever you can find the episodes, and we would sure appreciate that quite a bit. So thank you. Allie, why don't you sort of introduce yourself to the family here and just learn a little bit about your history, your story of leaving religion. I'll assume you left a religious upbringing of some sort.
So my name is Allie Ashmead, and I'm currently on the board for Foundation Beyond Belief. I live in Palm Coast, Florida, and I grew up in a rural town in Virginia, so I'm not from Florida, but I've been here for about 25 years. So rural Virginia, small town, one stoplight kind of town. The type of town where when you meet people, the things that they ask you are, who are your people and where do you go to church?
So about how many people you have in that town there? Not that we're competing or anything.
It was low. I mean, maybe like back then, I don't know. It's grown a lot now. I haven't, but this was, I don't want to mention how old I am, but it was a long time ago. But there wasn't a lot of people.
Yeah.
I was the youngest of 4 kids, and we were very poor. So typical effects of poverty, just a really stressful environment for my family. Scary environment to grow up in. And a lot had to do with the family itself. But you had to go to church.
Everybody went to church.
Everybody went to church.
Uh-huh.
And when I was really, when you're really like young, you believe what all the adults tell you, God sees everything. You're going to go to hell. God's going to punish you. You need to pray for God to hear you, that kind of thing. And, I believed it, but I developed this like irrational fear of being happy. It was weird. So I was so afraid because of my family life. I was afraid to be happy because I thought God's going to see me being happy and he's going to take it away. Completely irrational, but I was, a child.
Right.
So it was stupid now, but it was, so as I got older, things just didn't make sense. I had a hard time reconciling God, what everyone was telling me about God, with what was happening in my family. I won't go into details. That's another show. But so yeah, it didn't make sense to me when you start getting old enough to start questioning things, and it doesn't make sense. If God is in control, then why are people causing this stuff? But the breaking point for me was when I was 14. There was a traumatic event that happened, and it involved my brother and my father. And it was pretty traumatic for the whole family, us kids. And it was like the defining moment for me. I mean, I'd already had doubts anyway. Nothing made sense, but this was it for me. I was done with God. I was done with church, and there was nothing that any adult could tell me that would change my mind, because I realized this is all adults. This is all, well, not adults, but just people. These things are caused by people and their decisions and their actions. God has nothing to do with it. So that was the defining moment for me. But I did kind of slip a little later in my 20s.
I think it's always interesting, like, hearing people's stories, because there are so many. There's some common, waypoints for a lot of us. Yeah. And then there are some that are just like, no, that was so not my experience at all. Mm-hmm. Like, I love to hear people talk about, like, this was the moment that it all fell apart for me. Yeah. And I didn't have that moment. It was very slow, like little Fragile. Small things that I couldn't point to if I needed to. Yeah. That it just, and then at you get to a point where you look around and you're like, oh, this doesn't make sense anymore, does it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you find your way out then. And then, so for me, when I stopped believing, I was an atheist for a long time. I just didn't care. It didn't affect my life. I didn't live as if there was a God. It just, whatever. Yeah. There might be, and maybe I believe in it, but whatever. And then there came a point where I, switched into, nope, I definitely do not believe that anymore. And then I was angry for a while, and now I'm sort of on this pathway to, humanism and positive engagement and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I hope for that for everyone, because the angry atheist phase is awful. Don't get caught in that any longer than you have to.
Been there a couple of times. Yeah.
So you find your way out, and for you, then what?
So for talking about phases, I think when I was 14, I was angry. Mm-hmm. I was angry with people for lying to me. But at the same time, being Black, you don't really tell people you don't believe in God. That is just not something you do. So I kind of just faked it for a little while. Like, I stopped going to church and stuff like that. But if someone asked me, I basically avoided the question, because I knew the judgment and So I was angry because of what happened when I was a teenager, but then I just thought, like you, just apathy. I'm like, I'm just going to live my life. I don't care. Yep. And it only came up when someone asked me, I meet someone new, someone Black, because I knew the judgment was coming. Oh, where do you go to church? And I was like, I made something up. Wow. Because it's funny, because I had no problem telling my mother how I felt about religion. But it was strangers that I had a problem with, and the rest of my family, like cousins and stuff like that. But because I felt like my mother should understand, of all people, she would know exactly why I feel the way I feel. But
I don't want to probe any further than you're willing. Consent is important, but how did those conversations go? With Mom.
She was just, you're going to go to hell. No. I mean, I was pretty, at 14, I had to grow up pretty quickly. I had my own job. I bought my own car. I worked. I didn't know she couldn't tell me anything. So I've, I wasn't mean about it, but I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I don't believe it. And I have no reason to. And I think it hurt her, but that was how I felt.
Yeah, but it takes some strength to be able to do that. Knowing what the response, you knew.
Yeah,
You knew how
I
your
know.
mom was going to take
I
it.
know she loved me. I knew she loved me,
Yeah.
no matter what. So that
Sure.
was I wasn't afraid of that. I just, and it's weird because I could tell her and not everyone else. I couldn't tell anyone else
Yeah.
easily. Didn't make any sense.
I mean, you come from a small town. I came from a small town. You certainly had no like role models to look up to.
No,
Or you probably didn't know any other Black person who didn't believe.
no. I thought, what is wrong with me? I'm an anomaly. I try not to dwell on it too much because it's just kind of lonely to be in that place.
Yeah.
And no one to understand, like, because I did meet atheists later on, but they were white. They were, white male or white female. And it was not, and they were just, it was no big deal. And they were pretty open about it, but I couldn't be.
Right.
So.
Have you found in maybe more recent years that when you do connect with other Black non-theists, is that a shared experience that, that really kind of the through line through a lot of those experiences, I'm sure is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. To be Black, you're expected to be religious. It just is supposed to be part of our DNA in a way. And if you're not, then something's wrong with you. Or at least that's the perception.
Right. Well, and we were sort of talking about this just off air prior to the show tonight. If you want to address very briefly, maybe just that interesting sort of thing that we often struggle with. I don't know. I don't know how to classify that in a way, but it's something that I've always struggled with. That trying to understand how a group of people who were so oppressed by this particular religion, right? Christianity was, I mean, it's very racist. It's very toxic. It's slavery. All of that stuff has been justified through Christianity and the Bible for so many people to be so beholden to it.
Yep.
It's one of those things that I chew on a lot, going like, and I don't know that I come away with anything good other than like, wow, humans are weird, aren't we? Like, that's some weird stuff.
A little bit. Yep. It's funny. I honestly, when I decided I didn't believe in God, I didn't make any connection between slavery and religion. And probably most people don't either.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's embedded in our history here in America anyway. This is, I think we talked about this before, briefly before the show. Like when a person has trauma, like when an individual has trauma, you go through counseling and you work on things, and that takes a long time. But when you have an entire race of people that has trauma that has not been dealt with, then generation of trauma. It's like Stockholm syndrome, like you said. We've taken on the religion of our oppressors, and we have no idea, or we're not we don't have any idea, but it's just not something people want to face.
Right.
And because it gave our ancestors who were going through the most horrendous life, it gave them comfort. There were parts of the Bible, there were parts of that religion that made them feel like someone loved them.
Yeah.
That
hope even.
Hope.
Yeah.
Exactly. That they were special, and there was a day was going to come when they were going to be delivered and all that stuff. And so, when that was all you had to hang on to as a slave, that becomes part of your identity, I guess. And and that's our identity.
I also think we're really short-lived memory
Yeah,
beings.
we forget. We
I
forget
think
stuff.
I think about all the time, like all of these arguments about, oh, trans people shouldn't be able to use this bathroom or play on this sports team or all of this stuff. And where
Yeah.
does that come from? It comes from Christianity. It comes from the Bible. And these are the same people and the same religion that were saying you can't drink out of my drinking fountain, and all of that dumb bullshit too was also propped up in the same way that slavery was propped up
Absolutely.
by
We forget.
Christianity and the Bible. And we forget. My Black History Month tradition tends to be trying to bring awareness and posting a lot on social media about like just how recent this shit is.
Yes.
Because for me, I was told that I was growing up in a post-racial society or whatever bullshit, right?
Hmm.
I was born in 1979. I didn't live through the 60s. And and for the education that we get in schools, which is terrible, or well, we got in schools at least, which is terrible.
Whitewashed.
Yeah, exactly. And so now when I think back about like how actual recent that was, it's one of those like, oh, somebody will share the picture of the women for Trump, right? The old white ladies at the rallies. Like they were in high school when the race riots were happening.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't that long. It feels long ago. It wasn't on the cosmic grand scale of whatever. That was yesterday.
Yep.
We need to be teaching that, and we're not.
Yeah, we're not. And when we try to teach it, it's a fight. It's they're rewriting the history books, and yeah. It's like we don't want to face our past, and we have to in order because we haven't faced our past. This is why we're in the mess we're in now. We haven't faced it. We haven't owned up to it as a country.
So before this is a great segue point, but I want to hear about how you got into Foundation Beyond Belief and what drew you to that and your work there.
So first I have to tell you how I found Black non-believers, because that is the thing that kind of changed me a lot. And I think it was around 2014. I can't remember.
Time has no meaning, Allie.
I was on my second marriage, but I was kind of open about being an atheist, at least at home anyway. I wasn't quite out, outside of the house. And my husband was too at the time. And we were just, living our lives. And I think it was 2014 where we went to a convention called Dragon Con. Not sure if you're familiar with what that is, but it's kind of like Comic-Con of the South. So if you're like a nerd, interested in comic books, movies, cartoons, anime, video games, everything. It was a convention that happened every year in Atlanta. And I absolutely loved going. This is my first year going, I think. And I went there with my friends, and there was an area that had different organizations that like to they had a booth there. Basically, they like to booth there, different types of organizations, all kinds. And I remember just walking through and just enjoying myself and looking around, and then I saw Mandisa at her booth, and I kind of did a double take. I was like, what? Black non-believers? No way. I ran up to her. I'm like, oh my God, this is real. This is a thing. And I took her card, and I think I gave her a hug because I didn't know her, but I was just so happy to see that. I know I made a complete idiot out of myself, but for me, that was the coolest fucking moment, because
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not nuts. I'm not alone. I felt validated, and and that gave me like a little bit of confidence to be a little more open about it.
Yeah.
Still not quite. It took me a while. I'm a slow burner. But yeah, it changed how I felt. I was like, she's doing it, and she's probably getting a lot of flack for it, but that's brave. That is so brave.
And shout out to Mandisa. We love
Yeah.
Mandisa.
Love
She's
her.
great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And she does. She takes a lot
Yeah.
on her shoulders. But when you're a pioneer, that's what happens,
For sure.
So yeah. So that was 2014. Still a slow burner, like I said. It gave me a little confidence. In 2016, I decided to go to my first secular event, which was the Reason Rally. I went with a friend, and it was just something I just wanted to start getting out there and doing stuff. And I met a lot of the people a lot of the names that we hear about, like Seth Andrews and all of the different speakers that were there. But it wasn't as crowded as it had been like the 4 years prior. And so I was like, what's going on? But this was right before the election in 2016. So I would, definitely that was one of the reasons I was like, I need to be more active. There's no way we can let this happen. Yep. It happened anyway. But yeah, that was kind of the start of it. Me getting involved. Just paying attention more, joining these groups online. Still not doing a whole lot. I was slowly coming out on Facebook and social media, and people who were my friends were kind of realizing, oh, Allie's an atheist. And I was for a while kind of an asshole, because you know how when you first become
weren't we all?
When you first get that freedom to say and do what you want, and and you accept yourself, you kind of are combative a little bit. You want to pick fights with people. And that was me. I admit it. So bad. But I did stop that. I did. I was like, that's not a good way to be. I mean, no one's going to listen to me if I'm like that. No one's going to see my point of view. Yeah.
So much of where I'm at now, and when I think of leadership in the organizations and things, like I said, it for me, it really is about helping people heal through that, because it's a, and we talked about it with Daryl the other day, a couple weeks ago, that these are, to be expected responses from having been indoctrinated. And then, you feel like everybody lied to you. You feel like you've had the truth kept from you, and by people who claimed to love you and mean well and all of that stuff. There's just so much to process through. And so as we approach the Foundation Beyond Belief part of your story, a big part of what I like about FBB is how well it fits into my mission of let's help people get through angry into happy, healthy and productive. Let's go do something good with, who was I talking to the other day? And I said, atheism for, it was the Recovering from Religion RFRX series that I did with my wife. But okay, I'm an atheist. Great. So what? At some point, that's the answer to the one question. And then the next question is, then what? What do we do with that?
Yeah.
And that to me is humanism. That's what Foundation Beyond Belief is all about, going out and doing good things. Yeah. So how did you get into that?
So I attended I think it's Women of Color Beyond Belief in Chicago. I think it was 2019. And right before the pandemic? Oh my God, was that
Yeah.
almost a year and a half ago? So yeah, so that was kind of like my third major event, because I went on the cruise with the Black non-believers, and this is when I first met everyone. That was like a year. I don't even remember what year it was. It was like around 2018, 2019. And so I met a bunch of people that were Black and believed and thought the same as I did, and it was refreshing, amazing.
Yep.
So then I went to the Women of Color Beyond Belief, and I saw that was where Foundation Beyond Belief, I think they were a sponsor, but then we also did a service event. And honestly, I guess I've been kind of selfish up to then. I wasn't really thinking too much about helping people. I mean, I wanted to, you want to help people, but honestly, I was just trying to get involved and see what should I be doing. You know what I mean? What should I, okay, I'm going to go to these conferences. It's going to happen. Something's going to happen. So then I heard of Foundation Beyond Belief, and we did a service event where we put together food packages for people, and we wore the hairnets, and we all did that. And I was like, this feels so good. This is what I want to do. And now there's an organization that isn't tied to a church that can do good things for people. And I'm like, this is really, really great. I met I was like, well, how can I volunteer? I think I met, at the time, whoever came to the conference from FBB. And then I think around December, I got a note from Claire, who was the board chair, asking, would I be interested? I'm like, sure. I wanted to volunteer, but I don't know anything about being on the board. I was like, are you sure you have the right person? She said she remembered me from the conference. I'm like, you sure I have the right person? So yeah, I was like, we had several conversations via phone and over chat, and I'm like, all right, maybe I should do it. And that was so early this year is when we started the interview process and all that. And by April of last year, during the pandemic.
Time has no meaning.
Yeah, it has no meaning. I'm in a time warp. So at the beginning of 2020 is when we started having those conversations, and then interview process and all that. And by April, I think I started with FBB, and having never been on a board of a nonprofit. And so it was a really, really interesting and terrifying experience. So
that's awesome, though. I think anybody who's followed us for any length of time knows how much we love Foundation Beyond Belief. So I love it. I'm glad you're involved. We should throw out a hey y'all to Tracy, who just joined the board. Love Tracy Harris. She's great
absolutely
too.
I've not met her, but I've heard amazing things, and I can't wait to officially. I've met her over email and stuff, but I can't wait to meet her. I think she'll be amazing.
Awesome. Well, let's plunge forward here. We thought it would be kind of fun and maybe interesting to do a segment, and we'll see how far we get. We may do one, we may do all. I don't know. see how long this takes.
Yeah.
But it is Black History Month, and so we thought it would be interesting to maybe look at some specific individuals from history who have a connection to Florida. So we're looking at secular Black folks, freethinkers, atheists, whatever the label, right? The non-religious label. But with a specific Florida connection, that would fit the show pretty well. So where do you want to start? Who do you want to talk about first?
Zora.
Gotta be Zora.
I loved just learning about her. So yeah, I'm on board with Zora. Zora. Okay, so I thought we would read the biography. Do you want me to read? I'll read her biography.
Yeah.
And then I will just say some other facts about it. So let me bring it up really quick and throw it over on my other screen.
I need to get me another screen.
You know what you can do is go buy a cheap television, a flat screen television, and HDMI cable. That's what I do.
There you go.
Okay, so I'm going to read a brief biography and then dive into some really cool facts. Cool. So Zora Neale Hurston. In 1891, writer and folklorist Zora Neale Hurston was born in Eatonton, Florida, and it was the first all-Black community to be incorporated in the U.S. Her mother was a country school teacher, and her father a Baptist preacher who became three-term mayor in Eatonville. My head was full of misty fumes of doubt, she would later write. Neither could I understand the passionate declarations of love for a being that nobody could see. Your family, your puppy, and the new bull calf, yes, but a spirit away off who found fault with everybody all the time, that was more than I could fathom. And I think that's what she wrote about religion. She was farmed out to relatives when her mother died in 1904. By 14, she had left town to work as a maid for whites. And I have some detail behind some of these things in a little bit. As a live-in maid, she enrolled at Morgan Academy in Baltimore. She attended Howard University intermittently between 1918 and 1924, while working as a manicurist and a maid for prominent Blacks. She moved to New York City in 1925 with $1.50, no job, no friends, and a lot of hope.
Wow.
In the midst of the Harlem Renaissance. Her short story, Spunk, in 1925, brought her notice. Fannie Hurst, author of Imitation of Life in 1933, gave her a job. Another patroness arranged a scholarship for her at Barnard College. Hurston graduated in 1928 and did graduate study at Columbia, where her talents caught the eye of an anthropology professor who suggested she incorporate anthropology in her writing. A commission by a wealthy white patron to collect folklore stymied her career, since the contract barred Hurston from writing. And I remember reading something about there was a gag order or something for her. But in 1933, she wrote her best-known story, The Gilded Six-Bits. Her first novel, Jonah's Gourd Vine, debuted in 1934, followed by Mules and Men in 1937, Tell My Horse in 1937, and the classic novel Their Eyes Were Watching God, also in 1937. In all, she wrote 7 books plus her memoir called Dust Tracks on a Road in 1942. And many of her short stories were published in magazines and anthologies. She married 3 times, but none of the marriages lasted. She was forced to take diverse day jobs to support her writing, from working as a drama instructor in North Carolina College for Negroes at Durham, to working as a maid once again in 1950. She suffered a stroke in 1959, and then she died in 1960 at a welfare home and was buried in an unmarked grave in a segregated cemetery in Fort Pierce. So last couple of things. Writer Alice Walker revived interest in Hurston in the 1970s. Hurston reader, I love myself when I'm laughing, and then again when I'm looking mean and impressed. That's the title. I love myself when I'm laughing, and then again when I'm looking mean and impressive. Sorry. Yeah. What a title.
That's great. I love it.
I do too. I love this woman, I swear. Was published in 1979. She was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame in 1994. And another writing of hers called The Complete Stories came out in 1995. And Here's a quote from her autobiography in called Dust Tracks on the Road. And she wrote, "Prayer seems to me a cry of weakness and an attempt to avoid, by trickery, the rules of the game as laid down. I do not choose to admit weakness. I accept the challenge of responsibility. Life, as it is, does not frighten me, since I have made my peace with the universe as I find it and bow to its laws."
Mm.
Good stuff, right?
Yeah, that is good.
Good stuff.
Wow. I wonder if, I mean, this is why it's important to share your stories, y'all, because someday somebody's going to look back at somebody's life like this and go, I wonder if we could hear her tell this story.
Yeah.
Was it the Baptist boarding school that she was sent to? What role did that play in her belief, in
Yep.
loss of belief? Or yeah, I find that stuff so interesting.
Same. Sadly, I have not read her books. You know, it's something I would really need. I really would like to do, is to just dive into all of these artists, because there
Yeah.
were so many artists, and I did not read them.
Sounds like well, I'll send Mandisa an email. Maybe we should do like a Black Freethinkers book club or something.
Oh, absolutely.
Wouldn't
That would be
fun?
great.
Yeah.
Now, so one of the cool things about Zora Neale Hurston, she did write a book, I think, that most people are familiar with, called Their Eyes Were Watching God. And because it was made into a movie in 2005. And I think Oprah Winfrey and Quincy Jones basically kind of took on this project, and among some other executive producers, but they were executive producers, and this movie was made. It starred Halle Berry, Terrence Howard, and Michael Ealy. And it was a good movie. It seemed, well, now that I remember the movie and then think about everything I've learned about her life, it seemed a little bit autobiographical, because it was set in Eatonville. I want to say Eatonville. And the main character ended up marrying the mayor of Eatonville, and her father, Zora's father, was actually the mayor of Eatonville. Right. So it's I don't want to give too many spoilers, but it's a really good movie. The main character was very much a free spirit. And also there was the actor Michael Ealy played Tea Cake, who is, tea is in tea and then cake. That was his name. But he was inspired by a man that she was involved with in 1935. So it's like she took parts of her life and put it into the movie.
I'm gonna have to see. This will come as no surprise to anyone who knows me, because I'm not a big movie person. That I have not seen this, but I'll have to put it on my watch list and get caught up.
It's really interesting. Let's see what else. So I mentioned, Eatonville is in Florida. Have you ever been to Eatonville?
I don't think I have.
I have not heard of it.
Whereabouts in Florida is?
Whereabouts is it? It's 6 miles north of Orlando.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I'm right around here. How do I not know where this is? Let me look it up.
And
it sure enough
and,
is.
I was going to say, correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong.
Yeah. Winter Park, Altamont Springs area.
Never heard of it. I've been to Disney many times. Never heard of it. You know,
it is right on I-4. Like I-4 cuts the town in half.
Crazy.
Well, see, here's the problem, though. I think I don't know, maybe, but it looks to me like it's one of those suburbia areas where you had all these little cities outside Orlando, but then Orlando just kind of grew and everything became Orlando.
Swallowed it up. Yeah. Could be. But so, as I mentioned in the biography, it was the first all-Black town incorporated in the U.S., or one of the first incorporated in the U.S., and that was in 1887.
Wow.
And her father ended up becoming the mayor when she was 6, I think. And there's a museum, a Zora Neale Hurston National Museum of Fine Arts there.
Road trip.
Yeah,
That's not far from where I'm at.
that's awesome. It's a good hour and a half for me, but and also there's
Yeah.
apparently a festival every year,
Hmm.
a Zora Neale Hurston Festival of Fine Arts as well. I don't know,
Yeah.
that's what the
Check it
Google
out.
is. That's
I'm
what the
gonna.
Google is.
It's about an hour and a half for us too, because it's on the other side of Orlando, so you have to
Right.
go through Orlando, which is.
Yep. After her mom died in 1904, so her father remarried, and then he and her stepmother sent her to a Baptist boarding school in Jacksonville, Florida,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of I lived in Jacksonville and around that area. When I first got here, didn't know that.
Mm.
So they eventually stopped paying her tuition, and then she was dismissed. When one of the jobs that she had as a maid, she worked for the lead singer of Gilbert and Sullivan theatrical company.
That's cool.
Let's see. In 1917, she resumed her formal education. She went to Morgan College, but it was the high school division of Morgan State University. Morgan State University is a HBCU, but she went to the high school division. And at this time, apparently to qualify for free high school, the 26-year-old she was claiming that she was born in 1901, so that she could get free tuition.
Huh. Okay.
And she ended up graduating high school there. She traveled extensively in the Caribbean and the American South, and this is where she, got all of her material, basically about cultural practices, and she conducted her anthropological research. Let's see what other good cool things. So we mentioned that she had a stroke in 1959, and then she was put in a home or some type of kind of like convalescent home for a little while, and then she ended up passing away in 1960. Do you know where Fort Pierce, Florida is? I don't know.
Oh yeah. Oh God, there's something. Hold on, there's something in Fort Pierce. Why is this in my brain
It does
now?
sound familiar. Something happened in the last year. But so she was buried at the Garden of Heavenly Rest in Fort Pierce, Florida. But at the time, they still did the segregated, cemetery. So if you were Black, you put in an unmarked grave, separated. And so she was buried there in an unmarked grave until 1973, when Alice Walker, who was, The Color Purple, she wrote The Color Purple, and then a fellow scholar named Charlotte Hunt found the unmarked grave in the general area where she'd been buried. So maybe they don't know where she actually was buried, but general area. And then they decided to mark a grave.
Wow.
Yeah. That's crazy.
God, y'all, just imagine. Like, there's an upcoming show that we're working on where we're going to talk about death in a lot of different perspectives, like how silly it is that we bury each other at all.
Yeah. When you think about it, why are we doing that?
What a waste of space and all kinds of things. But yeah, just imagine how culturally how important that has been to humanity, to then an entire group of people just sloughed off into mass graves, into unmarked graves, and then you don't really know
what happened to them.
But how great for someone to then at least come along and remember.
Yep. And give her the honor and respect that everyone
deserves.
should,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I guess last thing, her contribution to African American free thought. I mean, I think it's peppered throughout all of her books. But she was among many Black writers who began to explore their own religious skepticism and path toward free thought in great depth. And she did so across multiple genres, which is, she wrote an autobiography, an anthropology, and fiction. So those are the type of works that she did. And yeah, I really should go buy a book.
Yeah.
Shame on me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you don't know until you know, and then we do better, right? Now that we know, like there's some literature to go read.
Yeah. And I would probably need to watch Their Eyes Are Watching God again. Because yeah.
Let's maybe do one more, but I do want to mention Fort Pierce is I remembered what it is. I'm pretty sure that's where Bach Tower Gardens, Cheryl Peterson with Bach Tower Garden does a program that protects rare Lekella's mint plants, and that it's out there by Vero.
Oh, Vero Beach,
Port St. Lucie, somewhere in that area. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Fort Pierce is where that's at.
Cool.
Anyway, that's a thing that we did with Foundation Beyond Belief. Okay, let's maybe pick one more.
Okay.
What do you think? You have any
you pick.
Any preferences? Oh, don't make me pick.
Oh. Let's see, who do we have a lot of information about? Because so Butterfly McQueen, and then we have Butterfly McQueen was pretty interesting, and I don't know why I'm picking on the women, but
that's all right. Go for it. I like that.
Let me see if I can get her.
Oh, she was born in Tampa. It's just down the road from us.
I'm trying to click on the link. Come on now.
Technology's great, isn't it? When it works.
Yeah. Come on.
I'm just thankful that our video connection has, knock on wood, not that I believe in that either, but that our video connection has stayed
right
through all of this. For those of you who aren't in the know, we had lots of trouble before the show.
I'm trying to, let me see the link. Open the link. There we go.
Got it?
Yes, I know it's harmful, but I don't care.
If you need another minute, I can go off on some trolls in the chat.
Oh, are there trolls in the chat?
Oh, there's always trolls in the chat. Listen.
Really? No, don't tell me. I don't want to know.
No, I'm not going to tell you. No, I'm not going to tell you. What I will tell you is that YouTube is like the cesspool of comment sections. Oh, but I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
Yeah, that's true. I have been like a spectator, and I'm like, these idiots. Yep. But it's different when you're like on it, and then and then they're talking about you and what you're talking about.
I will tell you one, and then we can move on.
Okay.
A couple shows ago, we had somebody come in the chat and say that Sarah sounds like his testosterone level is high.
Fucked up.
Ban, delete.
Fucked up.
Get them out.
Can you pick them out?
Oh yeah. Oh
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.
Wow.
All right. Anyway, carry on.
All right. Okay. So Butterfly McQueen, which again, amazing. I knew of her actually when I was growing up because everybody watched Gone with the Wind.
Sure.
So I'm reading this from the Freedom from Religion Foundation, their website, because they have a little bit of a write-up on her. So this may be all reading, and then we can maybe stop and discuss, but there's a lot. So the Freedom from Religion Foundation honored actress Butterfly McQueen with its first Freethought Heroine Award at its national convention in Atlanta in 1989. Coincidentally held during the 50th anniversary of Gone with the Wind. Ms. McQueen, a life member of Freedom from Religion Foundation and a member since 1981, was best known for Prissy, the character Prissy in Gone with the Wind. And Miss McQueen was nearly a lifelong atheist. After brief remarks and a poetry recitation before the audience at the convention, she sang Paper Moon, accompanied by Dan Barker on piano.
Oh, that's great. I want to play that now.
Oh,
I don't think the copyright gods will come out.
Oh yeah, don't do that. Don't do it. She told Gail White, a reporter for the Atlanta Journal and Constitution in 1989, "My ancestors are free from slavery. I am free from the slavery of religion." And although she was raised a Christian, like most of us, in the South anyway, she began to question the value of organized religion as a child. She related one eye-opening experience with the clergy as a youngster, when she was riding a train to New York and offered to share her lunch with two young preachers. Instead of taking one sandwich and one piece of cake, they took the whole thing. And this is a quote. Yeah. "If we had put the energy on earth and on people that we put on mythology and on Jesus Christ, we wouldn't have any hunger or homelessness."
Amen to that.
Yes, amen to that. Christianity and studying the Bible has sapped our minds so that we don't know anything else. And these are things that she said. She said that she tithed not to religion, but to my friends, spending her energy cleaning up the slums. They say the streets are going to be beautiful in heaven. I'm trying to make the streets beautiful here.
Yes.
At least in Georgia and in New York. I live on beautiful streets. And then she also said, "When it's clean and beautiful, I think America is heaven. And some people are hell."
Can't disagree with that.
Yep. Born in Tampa, she gained an unusual name after dancing in a butterfly ballet as a child in a production of Midsummer Night's Dream. So she chose Butterfly as her name. Interested in purchasing some new furniture, she auditioned for the part of the simple-minded slave, Prissy, at age 26, and she was initially rejected because she was too old, too plump, and too dignified. But she reflected, yeah, I know. They wanted, yeah. Yeah.
Say no more.
Yes. So she reflected years later about the movie that they shot when she was 28. I was the only unhappy one. It was not pleasant. It was not a pleasant part to play. I didn't want to be that little slave. I did my best, my very best. Her very best was very good indeed. Miss McQueen stole every scene she was in, whether opposite Vivian Leigh or Clark Gable. She was offered a succession of maid roles in movies like Duel in the Sun, Mildred Pierce, and Cabin in the Sky. She once played a WAC sergeant in Since You Went Away. So I don't remember any of these movies. Granted, it was before my time, but we did spend a lot of time when I was a kid watching old movies. She quit acting in 1947 to avoid further typecasting, although she did return to TV as a maid on the show Beulah in 1950 to 1953. She appeared occasionally on Broadway and supported herself in a succession of jobs as a real-life maid, a companion to an elderly white woman, a taxi dispatcher, a sales lady at Macy's, a seamstress at Saks. She's done so many things.
A little bit of everything, yeah.
She told The Guardian during a visit in Great Britain in 1989, "Any honest job I've taken." And then she once told the Washington Post, Now I'm happy I did Gone with the Wind. I wasn't when I was 28, but it's part of Black history. You have no idea how hard it is for Black actors, but things change. Things blossom with time." Wow. So she was even thinking, about history, how
How that would affect,
her
yeah.
role
Yeah.
in history. Yeah,
Wow.
even then.
Hmm.
Let's see. Skipping through, let's see. She lived in New York in the summer and Georgia in the winter. The neighbors interviewed after her death said she was just known as Thelma by many who didn't realize her identity, and Mama Mac to friends. She liked to ride a bicycle with training wheels around the neighborhood. She was a health food advocate, and she usually lunched at the Belle Terre Senior Center, where she played and sang an impressive repertoire of classical music, jazz, and show tunes. And then, unfortunately, there was an accident in 1995 in Georgia in her Augusta home. I think it was a kerosene heater, and she had an accident and passed away from her injuries.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I wonder if for folks like that, we've talked now about like the experience of being black in America and a non-believer and having to hide that and how that plays into identity and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just imagine like going back just 100 years.
I know.
And how
I mean,
different times were.
it still amazes me that some people, despite all of the obstacles, were able to do so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, and we knew it was hard, and still they were able to do it.
Yeah.
So I think it's humbling.
Absolutely. Well, I love it. This was fun.
This was fun.
We had a couple more, but we'll put those on the shelf and maybe we'll do them.
Yeah.
We have several more weeks left in the month. Maybe we'll do
We
another.
We got a whole month.
Yeah.
I cannot believe how time flies.
Yes, I can't believe it's already February. So let's then talk about some things in the news. And we're gonna start local and work our way out. Those of you who have been following the show for at least the last, I don't know, month, one of our co-hosts, Devon Graham, who is an assistant state director with American Atheists and president on the board of Humanist of Tallahassee, something like that. She is, since she's in Tallahassee, she gets to be the one to go and like speak at all of the things. So just this week, she spoke before the education committee as they were reviewing the moment of silence bill, which is just it's just an open the door workaround for let's get kids to pray in the morning again.
That old thing.
Yep. So she also did what I believe is the first humanist secular invocation at the Tallahassee Board of City Commissioners. And so I have video of that, and I thought it would be fun if we gave that a little light of day. Let's take a listen.
The appropriate time at 3 o'clock in the afternoon for the Tallahassee City Commission meeting. I want to welcome everybody that has joined us in chambers and those that are watching us live. I call this meeting to order. We are first going to start off with the invocation. I would like to invite Dr. Devon Graham, PhD, the Florida Assistant State Director of American Atheists Incorporated and President of the Humanists of Tallahassee, to provide our invocation. Will you please stand and join me? Dr. Graham, welcome to your chambers.
Thank you. Mayor Daley, council members, thank you for this opportunity. I should note that today is International Holocaust Remembrance Day, and on this solemn occasion, I hope that we can live in a world that will never have to experience anything like that again. This is one of those rare invocations where you won't get in trouble if you don't bow your head or close your eyes, and I'm actually going to encourage you not to. I'd like you to look around the room and around the Zoom screen and at those that are present today. We're surrounded by people, both in person and virtually, who come from very different backgrounds and belief systems, with very different ideas of when and how things should be done. Despite these differences, we are united by our humanity and by our desire to do what's best for our community. Let's not ever forget that. And while no major injuries have been reported following today's storm yet, I have no doubt that we would work together as a community to help those in need and those without a strong voice at the table. We're living in a polarizing time, and it seems like we're entering a new era where the ground rules change on a daily basis. If the comments on social media, news outlet sites are any indication, it cannot be easy to govern in times like these. So with that, I encourage you as commissioners and city leaders to make decisions that best meet the needs of the people of Tallahassee, to recognize and appreciate the perspective of those with perhaps the minority viewpoint, and with those decisions, to remain on the right side of history. Thank you.
Dr. Graham, that was beautiful. Thank you.
Wonderful, Devon. Well done. That was fantastic. Now, I will add, of course, as I always do, that invocations before city, county, whatever commission meetings are dumb and we shouldn't be doing them at all. But as the courts have decided over and over again, if you're going to do them, you have to let everybody play fairly. And so thank you to the city of Tallahassee for doing the right thing and following the law. There's another story that's sort of ties into we were talking briefly about the bill that would allow a moment of silence require a moment of silence at the beginning of each school day, and that is packaged into a the statute that falls under is study of the Bible in public schools, something to that effect. Which again, don't need it. But there's another bill that was filed. One of the things that tends to happen, and I don't want to say it's geographically necessary. My little town of 1,400 people. God, this was 2 or 3 years ago. There was a news story where our dear friends at the Freedom from Religion Foundation sent them a letter because they were like, coach was praying with the students before a basketball game.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's a big splash in my little town of 1,400 people, right? Come on, think about where you grew up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to come in here and tell us
You don't get a letter.
we can't do that. Well,
yeah.
there is now, and again, this is, courts have decided over and over and over again that prayers like that, prayers over the PA, all of that stuff, whether you say it or not, does it lends gravity to the event. It does say that the school district is speaking in this moment. This is sponsored speech at a school-sponsored event. So there's another bill that's going through the Florida legislature now. Senate Republican filed a bill that would require the Florida High School Athletic Association to allow schools to have access to public address systems before sports competitions. This comes from Senator Ana Maria Rodriguez, Republican from Doral, filed the bill as the association and Cambridge Christian School of Tampa have been locked in a long-running federal lawsuit stemming from a 2016 high school football championship game. This story comes to us from News4Jax, Jacksonville News. The association, which is the governing body of high school sports, denied a request by Cambridge Christian to use the PA system at Orlando's Camping World Stadium to offer a pregame prayer. Let me say that again. The association did the right thing and denied the request for a Christian prayer prior to this game. That prompted the school to file a lawsuit, arguing that its First Amendment rights had been violated. So the bill would require the association to authorize schools to, quote, provide 30 seconds of opening remarks over a public access system before the start of an athletic competition. And it would also bar the association from, quote, controlling, monitoring, or reviewing the contents of any member school's opening remarks.
So then they could sneak a prayer in there.
Yeah, exactly. This reads a lot to me like the loophole that they use in like high school graduations, where if a student is giving a speech and happens to say some religious things during their speech,
Mhm.
well, that's okay. But we can't have like, okay, now everyone stand up, bow your heads.
Right.
Here is the valedictorian to present the prayer or whatever. So this reads to me sort of like that, like this whole like, well, you can't monitor or review the contents of what these remarks are going to be. Again, like if a student were going to be giving a speech at graduation, you know, is that
They
a
can't.
free speech forum with the school can't censor them or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, so then they would also need to think about how would they like it if
No,
a Muslim
they never think about
decided
that.
to. I know
Yeah.
it's always very very egotistical. If I could go up there and say, accept his noodly magnificence into your heart,
Yep.
into your soul, in the name of the pasta, the sauce, and the holy meatballs. I mean, it was good for the goose, as my mother would say. I don't know. Do you know that saying? Was good for the goose,
Good
it's
for the gander. Yeah.
So all these laws and bills that they're trying to pass, but they're focused on Christianity.
Mhm.
But
Mm-hmm.
are they willing to give that freedom to other religions as well?
They're not, and we know this
We
because
know
they
that.
say it.
Yeah.
So public schools is a target right now. Over the past 4 years, we've sort of been following Project Blitz and their operations to go out into state legislatures and pass all this Christian nationalist stuff.
Yeah.
And this year in the Florida legislature, the public schools have like a big target on their back. There are a lot of legislation that targets public schools. I want to say this was 2018 or 2019, maybe. We had a representative who fortunately it did not get reelected. She called herself the Demon Buster, Kimberly Daniels. And she had filed the bill that would put it would require high schools to offer an optional class on studying the Bible, right? You
I remember this. Yeah.
So every public school district in the state would have to make the class available as an elective. And I want to say it was Anna Eskamani who pushed back at one of those committee debates or on the floor and said, would you find it acceptable if we would add an amendment that would say all of the same things your bill says, except switch out Bible for Quran?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, no, I would not find that amendment friendly. I would not support that.
Yeah.
So they'll tell you
Yeah.
they don't. They mean their Bible, their Christian, and nothing else.
And therein lies the cult mentality.
Yep.
We need to stop saying America is a Christian nation. It's not.
It's not.
It's just yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So anyway, for those of you who are in Florida and following, again, we're going to talk about this stuff throughout the session. Their committees are running right now, going through this stuff. And thank goodness for Devon for being up there, being able to go and speak on these things. But even then, like the one she spoke on this week, we knew how that vote was going to go, right? You can look at who the senators are on the Senate Education Committee and know
Absolutely.
which way they're going to vote. And so, and knowing the answer, but also feeling frustrated by it, I asked her, I said, do you have to like psych yourself up to do these things, to go and speak on this, knowing that it's not going to have an impact on the outcome? Like, I know it'll have an impact on the fact that others are watching, that, the news media might pick up on the fact that an atheist or an atheist group, or, that someone is speaking out against this. Like, I know there are other positives to it, but like just knowing that no matter what you say, they're going to vote. They walked into that room knowing how they were going to vote.
Mine was already made up.
Yeah.
It's a losing battle.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's frustrating. So anyway, we'll be watching all of that stuff that's working its way through the legislature. Here's another one. This story comes out of the Orlando Sentinel. So there was a ballot measure that we voted on here to increase the minimum wage to $15.
Yep.
And feel however you want about that, but we voted yes.
I did too.
So
We had it. Yeah. Yep.
So there is now a push to limit that $15 an hour to certain people. Guess which ones?
Ooh, who could it be? Who could it be, Sarah?
So this comes from the Orlando Sentinel. A Senate Republican has filed a proposal that could lead to young people, felons, prisoners, and other, quote, hard to hire employees making less than the $15 hour minimum wage approved by voters in November. Senate Judiciary Chair Jeff Brandes from St. Petersburg unveiled a Senate resolution Wednesday that would modify the $15 wage amendment to allow legislature to set reduced pay rates for workers under 21, those convicted of felonies, for state prisoners, and other hard-to-hire employees. I don't know that I need to read any more of this.
No. Yeah.
What a racist, garbage effort this is. And
Yeah.
And what really irks me, I think, more than anything, is does the will of the people matter anymore? I need everybody need to like reflect, right? Do some soul searching, because I think there's about half of this country that says no.
Yeah.
That it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, we feel it obviously right now. Our vote, the will of the people has become, it's like a power struggle now. They just, they seem to forget why they're even in these offices. I mean, it used to be you become a politician because you want to make life better, and then now it's just because who has more power to control things. And this bill is yet another way, because the people that you mentioned, felons, I don't know what the hard to hire means. I don't know what the hell that means. But that population is disproportionately people of color, Latino. Yes. We know that is basically the way that's who they're really targeting. So once again, they're trying to keep. Why would you want to keep people in poverty? But that is what
we do. That is the American way.
Absolutely. That's the American way. There is no American dream. That is the American way.
Yeah.
But that is what that bill is going to do, is to keep certain groups in poverty. And we know, I know myself, the effects of poverty. I know it. I know what happens. Some people claw their way out. Some people don't.
Most don't. Most it becomes, it's a generational cycle that is impossible to break out of. And we do everything in our power to maintain that system.
Yeah. It's shameful.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's shameful.
And that's, I know we argue a lot about like, oh, you can't be an atheist and a this, or you can't be a whatever. Like, for me, that's basic humanism.
Yeah.
Like, if we can't just do the right thing to take care of the most people, what are we even doing?
Yeah.
Brandes tried to say that this was like, oh, we're just creating an extra rung on the ladder for them. It's like like a training wage that eventually would phase out, which is to say that if you're a former felon, you don't deserve a living wage. That's what he's saying. You don't deserve $15 an hour.
You've gone to jail, you've served your time. I mean, they already have enough against them when you've been convicted. It's hard enough to get a job because of all the current laws and restrictions and how that stigma is now attached to you. Even, you've done your time and you get out, you're effed. Can we curse on here? I think we can.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
You're fucked, basically. And you could be working hard and doing all the things right. But yeah.
Two things you just said. One, the hard work lie. I'm going to write a book because we have fooled countless people, generations of classes of countless people in this country, that if you just work hard, then everything will be yours. No. And I'm here to tell you that's bullshit. We've all been lied to.
If you're just born a certain way, or if you're just born a certain color, everything will be great. Or, you know what I mean? Just, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. No. But I'm here to tell you, I know people who are working 3 jobs, working hard, and they will never improve their station in life, despite all of that hard work.
Yeah.
So don't tell me that they just need to work harder. The other thing, do you remember Rick Scott had these god-awful clemency panels where when you had served your time, if you wanted your rights back, you had to go before this committee. And it was Governor Scott and I don't know, 3 or 4 other people. I can't remember who all they were now. And plead your case, beg for your rights back. If that isn't some institutional racist bullshit,
get off on that. What
they did?
Hell?
Oh, sure they did. Yeah, they got to be Caesar, determining the fate of the person before them.
That is cruel.
And then we, the voters, spoke again a couple of years ago and passed an amendment that said, hey, if you've served your time, you should get your voting rights back, and you shouldn't have to go through all of that bullshit. You remember that?
Yep.
What happened immediately after?
Changed. DeSantis.
Well, yeah, maybe they can have their rights back, but have they paid? They've done their time, sure, but do they owe any money? Because we shouldn't give them their voting rights back. Did we say give them their voting rights back unless? No. We said
the people
give them their voting rights back.
But they've again, ignoring the will of the people.
Yep. So to me, this is just another one of those instances where we, the people, said $15 an hour means $15 an hour. And now you're going back in and trying to go, except for those people.
Hold up. Let's see. How can we control this? They're literally thinking, how can they somehow control this? I don't understand how, keeping a very large group of people in poverty is going to help anything.
Yeah. On the constitutionality, he claims that he believes it to be constitutional, that the training wage would only be used in limited circumstances for teenagers, ex-felons, and others who traditionally can't find employment, whatever that means. Maybe that means that you're not well educated. Guess who's predominantly affected in that category too? As a possible example of how it could work, he said the initial lower pay could be set for a specific number of hours or days on the job before it goes higher. So you're thinking of like an apprenticeship is what that sounds like, but not an apprenticeship.
However they need to twist it.
Okay.
And teenagers need to make money too. I mean, I worked my entire teenage life, and they need the money. There's a reason they're working. It's not just a lot of times there's a reason that they are working as a teenager, and it's because they need the money.
Of course, John Morgan doesn't like this. John Morgan has been, for those of you who are not from around here,
is that Morgan and Morgan? Is that the John Morgan?
Yeah, just Google Morgan and Morgan.
Yeah,
that's all
I
you
love
need
the
to
commercials.
He of course says that this is an unconstitutional attempt to undermine the will of the voters. if the legislature continues to subvert the will of the people with this naked attempt to replace working families with child labor, he says, I will sue the state and I will win again. He is
Yes.
championing legalization of recreational marijuana and expunging records. And like, this guy
Yeah.
is, yeah.
Oh my goodness, the heads are going to explode. Legalization of marijuana in Florida,
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
heads will explode.
But just think, like, my God, and I know I say this all the time, copy paste out of Colorado, the money that
Really?
they have to pour into their public school system.
Infrastructure, just
Holy
yeah,
crap. But
exactly.
but here in Florida, we don't want that. We are the United States capital of voucher programs. We're all about choice and taking money from public schools to do all this other stuff. You know, like most states, we set up a lottery system and said, oh, it'll go to education. And that turned out to be a whole sham.
Yeah.
We really need to start caring about public education for serious.
First, yes. Look at this is a result. Where we are now is a result of our current public education. It's awful.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
awful.
Last couple of stories here. So we talked during the inauguration about just the religiosity that was iced all over that cake.
Yeah.
And again, like, my position is, I don't care what party you're in. I'm going to hold you to account to the same standards.
Yep.
I don't care particularly whether you're religious or not. Just keep it out of my government. But then enter the prayer breakfast, which just happened. The National Prayer Breakfast, hosted annually on the first Thursday in February, has been a tradition for sitting presidents dating back to Eisenhower in 1953. And Biden spent that pushing like faith and belief as a unifier in this we need to come together stuff. And I had so much hope. No, that's not true. I didn't have a whole lot of hope. He wasn't my first choice of any of the ones that ran. But I had hoped that maybe he would surround himself with people who would get through and say, hey, man, maybe we shouldn't do all of this. Like, okay, go to church on Sunday. You know, if you need to do the whole God bless you and God bless America stuff at the end of your speech, whatever, that's fine. But like, when you talk about this stuff, you need to say the words people of no faiths.
Yeah.
In that too.
Agree.
Right? People of differing and of no faith. So you need to have your language at least be inclusive. I
actually have no problem with him. Well, okay. It's like nails on a chalkboard. I do, but I'm kind of sick of hearing all the mumbo jumbo, the religious prayers and all this, but I'm learning to be more tolerant of people. I was not before and so in other religions, in order for them to be tolerant of me. But at the same time, like you said, maybe it's the ego thing with like when you are a Christian or you just literally think that there is nothing else but your religion.
Right.
So when he's talking about it, he forgets to include other people, because there's more than just atheists. There's more than just Catholics, and there's more than just non-believers. There's other religions that he's not including.
But for the prayer breakfast itself, like, it is a very specific, like, Christian evangelical group.
That needs to change. That if he really wants to impress me, then let it be multi-faith, which includes secular and Muslim and everybody, spaghetti monster. Everybody. If you really want to be inclusive, then be inclusive.
Senator Chris Coons, Democrat from Delaware, a close ally of Biden's, said that the breakfast, quote, recognizes the teachings of Jesus, but is not limited to Christianity, end quote, and is meant to, quote, be an inclusive and positive event. Those two statements stand in contradiction with each other. You can't It's mostly about Jesus, but maybe not. And it's about unity, but it's mostly about Jesus. The best response, of course, is from the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Unfortunately, Biden also ventured into religious cliches. Quote, "For so many in our nation, this is a dark, dark time. So where do we turn? Faith."
No.
Of course. FFRF co-president Annie Laurie Gaylor responds by quoting Mark Twain. As Twain said, "Faith is believing what you know ain't so," she remarks. As we've seen in this pandemic, science is where we have turned, and faith has often gotten in the way. Yes, I would say we have not turned to science nearly in the ways that we should have.
Yeah.
And faith has certainly gotten in the way of that. They also point out, which has not been included in a lot of the mainstream sources, the fellowship, also known as the family, which puts together this whole thing. There was a wonderful Netflix documentary called it was based off the book by Jeff Charlotte, "The Family, the Secret Fundamentalism at the Heart of American Power." Which, go watch that if you haven't. It's a shockumentary, really. It's produced in a way that's supposed to make you feel a certain type of way. And if you're on our side of the aisle, on the religious thing, you're going to probably feel that way. But it does highlight just how much power is exerted in Washington by this religious faction. They continue, and the U.S. government's role in arranging the get-together has always been less than transparent. Although the National Prayer Breakfast is technically sponsored by the private Fellowship Foundation, which is dedicated to, quote, "the teachings and precepts of Jesus," again, not very inclusive, the nation's lawmaking body plays a key role. The U.S. Congress hosts the National Prayer Breakfast, and the Christian organization, the Fellowship Foundation, organizes the event on their behalf, reads the website for the 2017 event. Others are joining Freedom from Religion Foundation in criticizing the breakfast, including Norman Solomon, co-founder and national director of the progressive activist group Roots Action, who said, quote, "We don't need any unity with bigotry. I fear a subtext of this engagement is, can't we all get along? But that's not appropriate in this case, given the well-known right-wing and anti-gay background of the event's sponsors."
Yep.
So, yes. Hopefully there will be, I feel like the National Prayer Breakfast has just become one of those events that, and intentionally, that you're a president, you do it. Like, that's just what we do.
I'm gonna try to be positive and, because it is really nice to have some hope for, and I'm going to stick it to him, and make sure that he's not doing stupid stuff. But going to try to have some hope, because what he has done is been, his cabinet seems to be inclusive. He just forgot that little part about,
Right.
So, I'm gonna, that's a ding, but I'm gonna hopefully that he's got the right people around him to say in his ear, maybe, okay, don't do that. Or you need to include other people. I mean, but he's got a tremendously diverse cabinet. So I'm hoping that kind of
balances that out. Yeah. And I mean, they say actions speak louder than words, but also like the words of a president carry a lot of weight.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I would just love to see a president get up at that event and start talking about different faiths. Like,
me too.
Specifically.
I would
name them all.
Flip. I would be so happy. I'm telling you, that would be the day then we know we've come far. So
yeah. The last story that I have here for us this week is a bittersweet story, I think. Roy Speckhardt, the executive director of the American Humanist Association, is stepping down after 15 years running the organization and 20 years with the organization. This comes from our friend Hemant Mehta over at the Friendly Atheist. While there are always multiple factors in a decision like this one reason stands out. Speckhardt acknowledges that the atheist world remains a predominantly white, cis male one. That's certainly still the stereotype, and one way to change that is to make sure women, LGBTQ individuals, and people of color are in positions of power. Speckhardt has routinely elevated those voices within the AHA, but ultimately, he's always been the guy at the top of the pyramid. He's the one who gets quoted in the media, for example, by virtue of his position. So, as he leaves his post, he's urging the AHA board to give strong consideration to replacements who aren't like him, especially people of color, since we've rarely seen them running atheist groups of this size. In a statement sent to Hemant, he explained, "Being at the helm of such an organization as the AHA, whose mission is so critical to our times and whose influence far outstrips its size, was the greatest honor of my life. But I've decided it's time for me to step down and make room for new leadership. It is my emphatic hope that my seat is filled with a black or brown humanist, because our movement has gone too long without such diversity at the helm, and this would open the door for AHA to truly achieve its potential as a humanist and anti-racist institution." Wow.
Mic drop.
Way to go. That's
Bold move.
how you do it.
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
You make a big statement and you make a big action.
Yep. And obviously not that he has anything to say about the, like the AHA can do whatever it wants. But for him to make that statement on the way out it's meaningful.
It is very meaningful.
Yeah.
And even, he, like you said, he just may not have a say in it, but he put it out there and say, this is what you need to do. This is where you need to move. This is the direction. Bold move. I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why people of color or, everybody has to have their own groups because we all have these like specific things that we deal with as people of color, that people in those larger groups don't understand or can't identify with, or you know what I mean? Yeah. So but to have a person of color or in that role, and that's not to say they're just going to give them a role.
Of course,
they're going to obviously be qualified for it. But it means a lot to see that, and to have those larger groups that are predominantly white let's start welcoming people of color, just people that aren't white, male. Let's do some inclusion ourselves. We talk about inclusion. Let's do it ourselves. So
yeah, absolutely. I think a lot too. I had been resistant to like YouTube atheism for a long, long time, and still sort of am skeptical because it is largely like cishet white dude bro land, and I'm just not like, those aren't the voices I want to hear. So I find podcasting tends to be a little more diverse, but hopefully that's a changing metric too that we're going to see. We're doing it.
Yeah, you're doing it. You have everybody on here, and I love it. I think it's amazing.
I think we need to do that in our lives. Like that's a thing that really struck me when I think about the challenges that we have around this topic. That little town of 1,400 people that I grew up in the middle of nowhere, Illinois, there were no black people. There were no brown people. Everybody spoke English. Mm-hmm. It was just white people as far as the eye could see.
Right.
And I know, like, I've told this story a million times, but I'm going to keep telling the story until it changes.
Yep.
Because it still hasn't in areas like that. We would go to the nearest city, which was an industrial town. And I can hear the doors lock on our van when we turned on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, because we had turned into that neighborhood.
Yeah.
that shit is seared into my brain. I remember that. I didn't grow up with friends who didn't look like me. And I think I use a lot of my gender identity as a bridge to, to relate to some of that experience of being different in a,
Absolutely.
But yeah, like we need to open up our personal circles and our groups as well. So I love it.
Awesome. Yep. Absolutely. They don't get out much, do they?
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Don't
Something
leave.
about those little towns. Yeah. They stay, they don't leave. And then it just, the cycle continues of ignorance. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm from a small town.
Yeah.
And I'm not busting small towns. It's just that it's the small town mentality I don't like.
Right.
I like small towns.
Yeah. There's a lot of my growing up in a small town that I do like. Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot that I don't, but
yeah.
I think that's probably everywhere. All right. So that's it for the news. Let's go ahead. We're at time. Let's go ahead and wrap up the show. I want to hear from you about anything that you might have coming up, or what Foundation Beyond Belief is up to that we need to get people over to and engaged in. And while you're loading that up, I will just say, we love Foundation Beyond Belief so much. We do. I mean, we did a whole freaking holiday fundraiser thing for Foundation Beyond Belief. But,
by the way, was amazing.
Oh, thanks. That was so much fun. I love doing stuff like that. And I already have ideas for like, ooh, what's next, right?
Awesome. So I love Foundation Beyond Belief too, and I'm just really honored to be a part of it. So we're concentrating on just getting out there more, and having more conversations with people and our BBN teams. And then one of the things that we started, I think last month, I think was it last Friday? I don't know. I don't remember. We're having something called Fireside Chat, which I think, it was last Friday. I think you were busy, but it's going to be once a month. It's a Fireside Chat. We're having monthly conversations about issues relative to humanism at work, how your support is helping us put compassion into action. Coming up, we're going to be talking about COVID-19, and you're going to hear from other BBN teams and other grantee organizations. So it's really, really cool. Tiff, who is our executive director, is the host. So we're just, kind of feeling it out, seeing what format is the best. And the last week was really, really, really good. So
that one was the food insecurity, right?
Food insecurity, yes.
I'm going to have to go back and watch that.
Phil was there. Phil was amazing,
Love
as usual.
Phil.
So yep. Phil, it's going to be good. So Phil was there, and another organization were the main speakers. So it was really, really.
Yeah.
Really,
yeah. If you ever want to feel ashamed about how little you do in volunteering and helping other people, just have one quick glance at Phil's calendar and
He makes me want to.
Yeah,
I'm ashamed.
Yeah.
But he's amazing to know someone like that, and he's just makes you want to be better.
Yep, and just the knowledge that he has to share with everyone else that's organizing and doing that kind of work is so great to have. Yeah. Food insecurity is one of those things that that's a lot of the programs that we're doing with our group now are organized around food insecurity. It's one of those things that we talked a little bit earlier about, this is baseline humanism stuff that if we just did it, and I know y'all are gonna get tired of hearing this too, but just do it, and then I'll stop saying it. If we just did it, we could solve hunger and homelessness tonight before we go to bed in the next couple of hours. We could solve it. All we have to do is do it.
Yeah. If only.
If only. Cool. So foundationbeyondbelief.org is the FBB website. Go check out all of that stuff. For those of you who are watching not locally here, there are groups and events and things happening all over the place. that are associated with Foundation Beyond Belief too. So there's lots of ways for you to get involved locally, in addition to checking out like some of that national, international programming and online stuff that we're all doing in the COVID world. As for me, next week I have that Faith Leaders Forum that I get to speak at again. I pitched my, I got 5 minutes to talk about comprehensive sex education, which I pitched to a couple of people for feedback, including one of the organizers, and they loved it. So I can't wait to share that with y'all. But basically, get out of the way. We need to teach our kids the right, more information has always been better than less information.
None. Yes.
Right.
For sure.
So come for that. I've shared that on our Facebook page, the Atheist Community of Polk County. If you want to, you're welcome to register and attend. It's a Zoom thing. And there's Mama Ashley Rose is going to be a speaker that night as well. Heather Norby from the Unitarian Universalist congregation will be speaking. Last year, we had someone from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We had a Southern Baptist, I think. So it was a good mixture on the panel of speakers. So anywho, that's on the 11th. And then next week on this very show on Freethought in Florida, Bryce Blankenagel of the Naked Mormonism podcast and Glassbox will be joining us. I have not yet interviewed him, of all the many people that I have interviewed, so it's going to be fun getting to talk to Bryce and talk about Mormonism and ex-Mormonism. So it'll be a good time. Allie, thank you so much for this. This has been a great night.
No problem. I enjoyed it myself. It was the best.
Awesome.
Can I just say one more thing?
Please.
I did want to plug kind of a local Palm Coast organization. This is a brand new organization, and I just wanted to just give a shout out to her. So there's a young lady in our local Palm Coast atheist group who started a 501c3 organization just in January, so a few weeks ago, and it's called Fostering Kindness. And so the basis behind this, it was started by her name is Allison. She was a former social worker.
Okay.
And as a social worker, she witnessed, the heartache of teens in the foster care system, and she wanted to do something special for them. Because a lot of times they don't have anything. And they sometimes go to caregivers with nothing. Yeah. And so the idea is to provide gifts for all life occasions, like birthdays and graduations and all the milestone dates and that you go through as a kid. And so that's, the general idea is to basically make them feel important and acknowledged. And again, it's called Fostering Kindness, if I didn't mention that before. We know there's tons of charities that try to focus on basic needs, but I think love, especially for children who may not have it, love and kindness is a basic need too. So I think this is going to be a great charity. It's just getting off the ground. She's not had her website up yet, but she does have a Facebook group. It's called Fostering Kindness. You can find it, and you can. So the really neat thing is, you can go basically shopping for a child, and buy an item that they've put on their wish list, or that they either want or need. And she's worked with the case managers, so she kind of knows when their birthdays are and stuff like that. I just oh my gosh,
awesome.
My heart. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be amazing, and I can't wait to see what happens.
That's so great. I love that. I'm thinking about we helped some people during COVID who were about to be evicted, and this was all during Christmas time. And our thing isn't Christmas gifts. We have one thing that does food insecurity, and then we were doing this little extra as the atheist community of okay, well, let's keep you from getting kicked out of your place for, or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, those milestones are so important in our lives.
Yeah.
They really are.
You hold on to those memories
Yeah.
when you're growing up. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be great.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. Hey, when she's gets this like really cranked up and moving, let's just have her on the show.
Oh, all right. Well, she
That's
would
easy.
be freaking out right now. Yeah. But I will tell her. Yeah,
I'm all
absolutely.
about that. Yeah.
I think she would go for
Sweet.
that. That would be cool. Thank you so much,
Cool.
Sarah.
We'll talk offline about that then. And hey, welcome to the team. Yay.
This is awesome.
Oh, this is so good. This has been my dream from the start. I wanted to start a channel that we were doing programming and content like this that's storytelling but educational, but also news and current events and just covering a little bit of everything. But I wanted it to not just be the Sarah show. I did the Sarah show for several years, and I'm ready to let's bring in more people. I can't wait. I can't tell you, I cannot wait for the first episode that I just get to produce and not have to be on all the time.
It's a pleasure to talk to you. You're just like a natural. And
thanks.
you're so much fun. So yeah, this was awesome.
Yay. Well, we'll look forward to a lot more. And
Cool beans.
sweet. There we go. All right. Well, let's wrap up the show then. That's it for this week. You can get this show, Freethought in Florida, on YouTube and Facebook and all the popular podcast players. You can find those links to subscribe at polkatheists.org/FIF. And please like, subscribe, and share out the episodes. Help us reach a broader audience. We sure would appreciate it. You can find all about the atheist community of Polk County or make a donation at polkatheists.org and follow at Polk Atheists on all the social media. And of course, remember the 3 most important things. Please, dear God, don't touch anything, wash your hands, and wear your mask. Be safe, everybody, and we'll see you on the next Freethought in Florida.